thank all of you for being here today. This is a rather historic moment, I believe, in our state. And we're going to sign House Bill 87. And I want to thank the members of the General Assembly who are here with us today. And following that, we will have a brief statement and then we will entertain your questions.
Down in front.
Down in front.
To begin with, I want to thank Representative Matt Ramsey and the co-sponsors of this bill. They worked very hard to produce the Illegal Immigration Reform and Enforcement Act of 2011. While I believe immigration is an issue that can ideally be identified and addressed and should be addressed at the federal level, this legislation, I believe, is a responsible step forward in the absence of federal action. Illegal immigration places an incredible burden on Georgia taxpayers. With an illegal population that is estimated to be almost 1.5 million, the collective financial cost to our educational, health care, and correctional infrastructure is in the billions. Let me reiterate something important that sometimes gets lost in the media discussions. Illegal immigration is already illegal in the state of Georgia. What this bill does is to protect employers by providing them with a practical mechanism to ensure that they are hiring only those who are eligible for employment. This will level the playing field for Georgia employers and end a practice that places law-abiding operators at an unfair disadvantage. As many of you are aware, this legislation went through several iterations. And thanks to the diligence and hard work of the General Assembly, I believe the final product avoids many of the pitfalls that have been alleged to exist in Arizona's legislation. Some have looked at this bill and tried to decide who the winners and the losers are. From my perspective, the people of Georgia are the winners. Today we're taking action to uphold the rule of law, to protect employers, to level the playing field for honest employers, and to afford every Georgian his or her best shot at a job, and to protect taxpayers' limited resources by taking an undue burden off of our schools, our hospitals, and our prison system. I'm pleased now to introduce to you the sponsor of this legislation, Representative Matt Ramsey.
Well, first I want to, before I make a couple of remarks about the bill, I want to thank the governor for his leadership on this issue. He's been one of the stalwart leaders on this issue for decades, particularly the last 20 years in Congress. He knows firsthand the size and scope of this problem on a national level. He's been talking about this issue when many people weren't. He knows firsthand also how difficult it is and how problematic it is to get comprehensive federal action, both on the enforcement side and the legislative side, to address this issue. With that in mind, he came and traveled the state last year from a perspective of knowledge and credibility, and told the citizens of Georgia, based on that perspective, that we can't wait anymore to take steps to address this issue. This is an issue that impacts our schools, it impacts our law enforcement infrastructure, it impacts our healthcare infrastructure, and today Governor Deal brought that promise to fruition and by signing this bill into law, and I'm just proud to serve in the state with a leader of the integrity of Governor Nathan Deal. I also want to say thank you to our Speaker of the House here, whose stalwart leadership through this process. It was a long and arduous process, and his unwavering leadership made this a reality. Also, Chairman Golick here, who presided over hours and hours and hours of hearings as we worked on, as Governor Deal said, various iterations of this bill. He was a steady hand in a very tumultuous process. Also, the Senate Majority Leader, Chip Rogers, he's been working on this issue in the state starting in 2006 with one of the most comprehensive pieces of immigration reform legislation that's been passed ever in the country, with SB 529, and he again carried that commitment forward by shepherding this process through the Senate, along with my co-chair of the Immigration Reform Study Committee, Chairman Jack Murphy. There's a lot of legislators here that had a role in this process, and every one of them participated in what was one of the longest, toughest debates that I've ever been a part of. It started back in August of last year, and we studied this issue for months and months and months. And what we found was this. Now, this isn't simply an immigration issue. We've heard from school officials about the burden that the nearly 500,000 illegal aliens, the burden it places on our school infrastructure. We've heard from the law enforcement community how communities are materially less safe because of this problem that's been created by the federal government's inaction over 3 decades. We've heard from hospitals about how they're having a tough time making ends meet because of this additional burden that's placed on them. This is a good day for Georgia's taxpayers, and that's exactly who we're standing here on behalf of today. We don't have the authority as a state to do much of what the federal government should be doing. We don't have the authority to secure our nation's borders. We don't have the authority to deport illegal aliens. But what HB 87 represents is the very best that we can do as a state within the boundaries of the U.S. and the state constitution to address the social and economic consequences of illegal immigration. We've taken steps to remove incentives that bring illegal aliens to the state of Georgia. We've taken tough new enforcement measures to make sure taxpayers aren't funding public benefits that are usurped by illegal aliens. We've taken tough steps to make sure that the #1 incentive that brings illegal aliens to Georgia, that's access to jobs, are removed through the implementation of E-Verify in our business community. And I want to close with a statement to our friends in the business community. Georgia has one of the most business-friendly states in the country, largely because of the work that's been done over the past 8 years by the Republican majority, the men and women you see standing up here today. We're going to continue to have one of the most business-friendly states in the country. And to the extent that there's concern out there in the business community, just know we understand how important business is to our state. Georgia's going to continue to be a business-friendly state. HB 87, though, represents our responsibility to watch the taxpayer's bottom line, just as the business community vigilantly fought.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! We won't leave! 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 We won't leave!